Hi. Hello and welcome to this episode of Heart-Centered Conversations with me, Jane McDowell from Rewilding Women's Voices. And it's been a while, hasn't it? Yes, since before Christmas. So thanks for joining me again. And today, my guest is the lovely Kaye King. Kaye, tell
Hello.
people a bit about yourself.
Well, hello, Jane. Thank you for having me, first of all. So, a little bit about me. I am a marketing mentor. I live in Gloucestershire. We know each other through networking, business networking. And as a marketing mentor, I help people promote their businesses in a way that doesn't feel icky, that doesn't feel spammy, that, yeah, they feel comfortable with it and it feels aligned, it feels natural, it's not forced and horrible. Um, and I've recently qualified as a swimming teacher as well, last
Oh,
year
wow.
at the age of
Exciting.
61, just because I thought I would do something different. I
Yeah.
love open water swimming. I swim all year round outside. And I keep meeting people who go, I'd really like to do that, but I can't swim or I'm not very confident and I
Mm.
thought, if I learn to teach how to teach swimming, I can help these people. So that's a little
Oh,
side story that maybe you didn't know about,
well,
actually, because last time we met, I'm not
yeah.
sure I was qualified.
Yeah, well, congratulations on your new qualification. And yeah, what adventures will unfurl from that? Let's see.
Who knows?
Cool. So tell me, what is the book that you have brought to this conversation today? Okay.
The book I have brought to this conversation is backwards. Tuesdays with Morrie, it's called, by
Tuesdays with
Mitch
Morrie. Okay.
Albom. Yeah.
Mm.
So the book is written by a guy called Mitch Albom, who was, or still is, um, an American journalist at the time that he wrote the book. He was a student in the 70s in the
Mm.
States, and he was at college and he went to his first sociology lecture. And the lecturer was a guy called Professor Morrie. And there were 9 students in the class. And Mitch was on the point of just going, I'm not going to do this. You know, if I skip a class, they'll notice because there's only 9 of them.
Yeah.
And uh, and he was kind of on his way out of the classroom when the professor started reading out the register. And because his surname begins with A, he was the first name on the register. And he was kind of half in, half out of the classroom. His name was called, and he couldn't bring himself to leave. He just kind of went back into the classroom and went, yeah, I'm here.
Mm.
Stuck with that sociology course and developed a really lovely relationship with Professor Morrie Schwartz. And he he was very young when he was at college, and this professor was one of those. He sounds like an amazing guy. So it's a true story, or the whole book. And
Okay.
the Professor Morrie Schwartz was one of those professors who loved life, loved learning, loved meeting people, sharing ideas, talking to people. So his students really enjoyed spending time with him, not in a kind of weird way, but just
Mm.
chatting about music, about life, about books, everything. And Mitch Albom developed a really good relationship with Morrie Schwartz, and he said he'd never had a teacher or anything like it, but he just became really good friends with him.
Mm.
And he ended up taking more and more sociology courses because this guy was teaching them. And at his graduation, he decided to buy this professor a gift because he felt he'd got so much from him. Went to the graduation. The guy, uh, the professor says to him at the ceremony, keep in touch, you're one of the good ones. And he goes, yeah, yeah, I'll keep in touch. Definitely, I'll keep in touch. Walks away from that graduation ceremony. Days go by, weeks go by, months go by, never keeps in touch with him, never calls, never writes, nothing. And he ends up getting on the treadmill of kind of being busy and improving his life and earning more money and getting a bigger house and getting a bigger car and getting another car, constantly, 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 working 90 hours a week. He's a journalist, sports journalist. And one day he's in a hotel somewhere in the UK and in America rather, and he sees a uh, introduction to a late night talk show with a guy saying, mentioning Morrie Schwartz. And this is 16 years later after he's graduated. And in that time, Morrie Schwartz has carried on dancing, listening to music, teaching. He has people round to his house all the time just to chat and exchange ideas. And he gets diagnosed at the age of 70, 75, something like that. Gets diagnosed with a terminal neurological disease, which is basically destroying his body, destroying him. And
Mm.
he's got months to live, he's told. And he starts writing and chatting to people and inviting people round to talk to him about what it's like to be dying. Because he's gone, he gets the diagnosis and he kind of goes, well, I can either curl up and die in a
Mm.
hole by myself, or I can I can learn from it, or I can help other people learn from it. I can use it as a teaching experience.
Yeah.
So he invites people into his home to ask him questions, not strangers, people in his community, people he's connected with. He invites them into his home to ask, to talk to him about life and death, basically. And a local newspaper's got hold of it, and then this TV network gets hold of what he's doing. And this
Mm.
talk show host, who's like one of these kind of serious, badass, hard-nailed talk show hosts, says that
Yeah.
he wants to go and interview him. Um, and this guy, Mitch Albom, who's written the book, happens to see this on the program, realizes who it is, and decides that he's going to contact this guy. So he phones him. Morrie Schwartz remembers him. He's feeling really guilty and terrible that he's gone 16 years and never got in touch
Mm.
with him. Morrie Schwartz goes, come and see me. So he flies halfway across America to go and see this guy and just starts having conversations with him. And it's called Tuesdays with Morrie because he goes on a Tuesday and then Morrie says to him, will you come again?
Yeah.
He kind of goes, yeah, maybe I will, maybe I won't. Um, and he does go again. And he always goes on a Tuesday and he visits for 14 Tuesdays before Morrie eventually dies. Yeah. And they talk about life, relationships, money, forgiving yourself, feeling sorry for yourself. He has a different topic every week. It's just the most beautiful, heartwarming. It sounds like it would be a really morbid book, but it
Mm.
isn't.
Yeah.
Morris
So
premises,
is each chapter like capturing each conversation that they have? Is that what it is?
yeah. So it kind of flits between there's a chapter about one of the conversations, and then there'll be a chapter about their experience together when he was a student, when Mitch Albom
Mm.
was a student. And then it flips back. And it goes through obviously the deterioration of Morrie Schwartz, but in a way that just feels so positive because he's like, I'm so lucky because I get to share this. I get to teach people. All these people
Yeah.
are coming to see me.
Yeah.
And he talks about how when you're dying, life is really put into perspective. You stop sweating about the stuff that really doesn't matter.
Yeah,
And this guy who's been working his socks off and ignoring his family and ignoring his sick brother and just, he, at the beginning of the book, he's like barely making time for Morrie. By the end of
yeah,
the book, he's spending more and more time with him. He's letting go of a lot of his work. He's developing a better relationship with his family. And it sounds really cliched and really kind of a bit twee, but it isn't because of the humour in it and because it's true.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Oh, that sounds fascinating because I think, well, in my experience of when my dad was dying, um, it kind of really brings home to you
mm,
what's important in life, you know.
yeah,
So, like you
yeah,
say, you stop sweating the small stuff and you
mhm,
focus on the good stuff.
yeah,
And I think also when there's maybe it's a kind of illusion or there's a kind of thinking that goes on around if people get the diagnosis to say that you've got X amount left to live, then either people can get sort of bogged down in the doom and the gloom of it all, or you start thinking, well, I'm alive
yeah,
now, this is life now, and so let's make the most of it. And
yeah,
yeah, I think it's much better for everyone. The person
yeah,
who knows they're going to die shortly, and all the people around them, to really sit in like let's make this time the best possible that we can.
yeah,
Obviously,
yeah,
within the constraints of
yeah,
what's
yeah,
going on for the person who's been diagnosed with whatever. But
yeah.
yeah, I think it's really important. So I think that's a really it's a beautiful way to convey that to an audience, I think.
Yeah, it's amazing. And he says there's a line, and his whole premise, Professor Schwartz's whole premise is that we all know we're going to die, but
Yeah,
no one
exactly.
really believes it. So
Mm,
we all live our lives kind of without thinking, about what's important, about the people closest to us sometimes, about
yeah,
the small things that matter.
yeah,
And people are kind of often chasing stuff that doesn't matter because they
yeah, exactly.
genuinely don't believe that today could be their last day.
Yeah, and isn't it? We all get sort of caught up in these stories that go on in our lives that may not even be true, but we think that they are.
Yeah,
And we
yeah,
let that kind of override us. I mean, how you help people with their marketing. So this scenario is pretty commonplace, I would think, in your world. But people who get so kind of bound up and frustrated and upset about, a click funnel that's not working or
yeah,
a web page that they can't get to look the way they want it to, and it's just all consuming. And
yeah.
actually, it
Doesn't
doesn't really
matter.
matter if people can find you and they want you, they'll find you and they'll get in
Yeah,
touch. It doesn't
yeah.
matter if you've got an imperfect web page or your click funnel takes them to the wrong landing page
Yes,
for a day.
yes.
No one's going to die.
No, exactly. And I say that a lot to my clients,
Yeah,
when they're stressing about something or feeling stuck and they're
yeah,
like, this hasn't worked. And I'm like, no one's gonna die. It's
yeah,
just, or if they like, oh, I'm supposed to be on LinkedIn 5 days a week, and I'm like, no, no,
yeah,
if that feels like too much, don't do it. Do what
yeah,
feels right and step back from it for a little while.
yeah,
Um, because no one's going to notice, the sky isn't going to fall in, no
yeah,
one's going to die.
exactly. Yeah,
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 that's a really
yeah.
good point, Jane. Actually, I hadn't thought about that. Um, but it is so true that
Mm,
we just get so hung up on stuff that doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
yeah, yeah. Because I'm in my own business, I'm kind of tuning into being the scientist. So I'm letting go of the outcomes, or at least I'm trying to. So, so those days when you do kind of find yourself getting all in a tiz because
Mm,
some bit of tech isn't working, and it's I'm finding it really good to just bring myself back to, do you know what? This isn't like the be all and end all. There's always another
yeah,
way. There's another way round things. And like you say, a lot of us feel that we have to do certain things, whether it's be on LinkedIn or, posting on social media every day, or
yeah,
having an email newsletter that goes out the same time every week. Da, 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 da. Sometimes that works really well for people, and other
yeah,
times it doesn't feel right, doesn't feel aligned with where we are
yes,
right now. And
yeah,
that's fine, because no one is sitting on their laptop thinking, well, where the hell is that email this week? Why haven't I heard?
absolutely. Yeah, no one is going. I normally get an email from Kaye King at 6:40 on a
Yeah,
Tuesday morning. Why hasn't it
yeah,
arrived?
yeah. And if
Sometimes
it
it
didn't,
doesn't.
yeah, and if it didn't for like 3 weeks in a row, then I might think to myself, oh,
Yeah,
I haven't heard from Kay. I wonder if she's okay. And then I'll
yeah,
send a message or
yeah,
something. But
yeah,
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 it's the way we all get bound up with, I won't say the wrong things, but the things that don't really matter.
yeah, yeah.
Yes, it's important for you to have an income, etc., etc.
Mm,
But what's more important is, your family, the people
yeah,
around you, your own health and
being
well-being,
healthy.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
There's a really lovely point in the book where it's quite close to the end where the author is talking to Morrie Schwartz and he knows that he's probably only got a few weeks left. And he says to him, what would be if you could have 24 hours where you are completely healthy and your body works the way you want it to do? This disease is horrible because basically the mind is still fully functioning. So it's
Mm,
similar to MND, but it isn't MND.
yeah.
But so he says to Morrie, if you had 24 hours where you were completely healthy, what would you do with that day? And
Mm,
Morrie Schwartz says things like, I would get my family round, we'd go for a walk in the park, we'd have a nice breakfast together. Then we'd go to this really lovely little Italian restaurant that I like around the corner.
mm,
Um, and then we'd come home and we'd play cards and we would chat. And Mitch Albom, the writer, kind of goes, by this point in the book, he's like, that makes sense.
yeah.
I'm not surprised that Morrie is saying that. But he said part of him thought he was going to say, I want to fly to Europe. I want to visit places I've never been before. But
Mm,
those things don't really matter. They don't,
mm,
you know, when your time is really condensed like that, and you go, right,
yeah.
okay, this is all I've got. Who do I want to spend that time with?
Yeah. Do you know if in that conversation whether Morrie turned the question round and asked the writer, so you're healthy today, what are you doing with your life today?
Yeah, that's the really lovely thing about it because
Yeah.
the questions go both ways, and Morrie Schwartz is very good at just planting questions, just
Mm,
planting thoughts and going, is that really important to you? Uh, how important is that to you? And he says at one point, I've highlighted some little things in here because I
oh,
thought there's some
lovely.
really good bits in here that I wanted to
Excellent.
share. And at one point, he does say to him that so many people walk around with a meaningless life and they seem half asleep even when they're busy doing things they think are important. This is because they're chasing the wrong things. The way you get meaning in your life is to devote yourself to loving others, devote yourself to your community around you, and devote yourself to creating something that gives you meaning.
Mm,
And he's, because this guy's spent decades chasing stuff that faster cars, bigger bigger houses, bigger jobs. And in
Yeah,
the end, he says, we don't learn how to live until we learn how to die. So
yeah,
when you learn that,
yeah.
yeah, I know you say that, you can't learn how to live until you learn how to die. And you kind of go,
Mm,
oh, crikey.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I suppose there is another way of looking at it. We're all learning to die from the moment we're born because
Yeah,
that's our ultimate destination, isn't it? So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
But we're
So,
not because we think it's not going to happen to us. We
yeah,
don't believe it in a weird kind of way.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's another thing to address when So,
Mm, mm,
yeah,
mm.
yeah,
But it's a really optimistic book as well because through the journey, Mitch Albom gradually, as I said, gets kind of lets go of a lot of the stuff that he's chasing that's not important.
yeah.
And he realizes he gets these light bulb moments throughout the story just from seeing how Morrie is with his family, with his wife, whilst he's going through all of this hideousness.
Mm,
And at one
mm.
point, Morrie Schwartz decides that he wants to have his funeral before he dies
All right, yeah,
because he said, why should I miss out on the party?
yeah,
So and that's what they do.
yeah.
He invites all the people he wants to come. He chooses the music, he chooses the readings, he chooses the food.
Mm,
And at this point, he can't really eat food normally,
yeah,
but he doesn't care. And they have this joyous event
yeah.
in his garden. Um, and friends are kind of phoning in who can't get there in person. And it's just such a beautiful scene where they're all celebrating this man who's still
Mm,
there to enjoy
yeah,
it. Um,
yeah,
and you think, yeah,
yeah.
why should
I think,
everyone have all the fun when you're not here anymore?
well, yeah, I guess. But also let people still have fun when you're not here too.
Mm, yeah, yeah.
Um, so I was curious because you said that the author recognized that he'd been chasing lots of
Mm.
things that he thought were important that weren't. Did he did he share in the book why he thought those things were important when they weren't?
Yeah, I think he, like a lot of people, after college, after university, or when you become an adult, you get drawn into this is the thing we've got to do next. We've got to earn money. We've got to earn more money.
Mm,
Or, I think I maybe it's a bit controversial, but I think it happens to men more than it happens to women. That having to always chase the bigger target, always chase the bigger house, always chase the bigger car
mm,
or more
mm,
cars. And he worked in, it was a different time as well. It not that long ago, but he worked in journalism, initially in finance and then in journalism. And it's a very competitive industry. It was sports journalism. There was always somebody chasing his tail, he felt. So he was feeling like there was always somebody that was going to overtake him, somebody that was going to kind of replace him if he didn't say
yeah.
yes to everything. So,
Yeah, I guess in both those sectors, by nature, they're very competitive, aren't they?
yes,
So, as
exactly.
a reporter on it, you also kind
Yeah.
of get in that car and race along with everyone else, don't
Yeah,
you?
yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he does say at one point in the book, he says yes to everything that he's offered when it comes to
Mm,
work because he's afraid to say no, because if he says no, they'll give that work to someone else and then they'll stop calling him.
yeah,
So
so,
he's got a not enoughness thing going on
yeah, scarcity,
always.
and that he was just all his decisions were coming from a place of fear rather
Yes.
than a place of,
Yeah.
oh, this is a great opportunity for me to
Yeah.
help me on my journey to whatever it was, if he even
Yeah.
knew what it was that he
Yeah,
wanted to
exactly.
do.
And he
Yeah.
didn't. And this little frail old man at the point that the books is written about is just the kind of things that we are learning about a lot now in terms of
Mm,
mindfulness and being in nature and all of that. This was in the 80s,
mm,
less talked about, less common, less kind of mainstream, I suppose. But this little old man is telling this guy, just look at the leaves on the trees,
yeah,
listen to the birds, watch the light on the water, and kind of, slow down for goodness sake.
yeah.
And he does. He does.
Mm,
He cuts back on a lot of his work, not not while the book is being written, but kind of the book that I read was published as the 20th anniversary of the book being originally published.
oh,
So it was a
okay.
20th anniversary edition, this one.
Yeah.
Um, and there's a kind of chapter at the end where he's talking about what happened to his life afterwards in the 25 years after he'd published the
Yeah.
book. So he decided to write the book to help pay some of Morrie's medical bills because obviously it was in
Oh,
America. So
yeah.
um, and he had all of these conversations and he was recording the conversations um, on an old tape thing.
Yeah.
Um, and he decided that he would, after he died, that he would kind of help the family, pulled it all into a book, never really thinking that it would be the kind of, it's like I've discovered kind of a global phenomenon now. There are
Yeah.
people that follow it all over the world. There's a
Wow.
podcast as well, I discovered
Oh,
while I was reading about it before I came to talk to you.
yeah.
There's a podcast called, I think it's called We Are Tuesday People, because they
Oh,
always met on a Tuesday. And
yeah.
Morrie had said to him one day, "Oh, we're Tuesday people. Come next Tuesday."
Yeah.
Um, and he's in that podcast. I've listened to a couple of episodes. It's still going. He started it in 2013, I think, and um, there was an episode released a couple of weeks ago. So
Mm,
he talks about the book. He talks about the people that have been touched by the book. He interviews
yeah.
people that have been touched by the book. And he has snippets of the audio of the conversations that he had with Morrie. So every so often
Yeah.
you get a little snippet of Morrie talking and sharing these little nuggets of wisdom in the
Yeah.
podcast. It's amazing.
Yeah. That is amazing. And also, we are recording this on a Tuesday. Da, da, da.
Oh my gosh, so we are. I've just realised that. Yeah, and we weren't originally going to be recording
No,
it on a
no.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
That's really cool, Jane. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good spot.
Mm. It's funny how those synergies happen, isn't it? Yeah.
Mm, mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I'm just curious. We were talking about how men in particular seem to feel the need to get on this kind of train and compete. And I'm just thinking about how different things are right now, especially for young people in the UK. Anyway, I don't know about other places, but so many, people coming out of university, you go to university to get a degree so that you can get a better paid job. But
Yeah.
it seems like now coming out of university is the equivalent of coming out of school when we were
Mm,
at that
mm.
age. And I wonder what that is doing to the kind of ways of thinking of about their future and how they see their place in society if those opportunities aren't there for them and they can't be seen to be progressing in the way that
Yeah,
maybe people who are older than them are expecting them to. Do you see what I mean?
I do. I do. And I think it's really hard for younger people,
Mm,
particularly. So I've got two daughters who are, one's about to be 30, one's 32, and they're kind of a generation on, weirdly, from young people now coming out of
yeah,
university. Um, and they but they are much more, I think, as a young adults now are much more inclined to not put up with a lot of crap at work,
Mm,
then they're inclined to kind of stand their ground if if work is making unreasonable demands in terms of the hours they work and the things that they do. They're much more likely to go, actually, no, I'm leaving at 6 o'clock. I'm not
mm,
staying till 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock or
yeah.
whatever, in some ways. I think for the generation behind them coming out of university now or coming out of education now, I think it is quite scary because
Mm,
there is this whole AI thing,
yeah.
what a lot of those entry level jobs can be done by AI now.
Yeah.
A lot of
Yeah.
admin tasks are done by AI. So
Mm,
what's that going to do for those people? Um,
yeah.
but yeah, that's a whole other topic, isn't it, really? But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's hard for them I think there's much more uncertainty now. I don't think we ever really thought when we came out of uni that we wouldn't get a job
Yeah. Yeah.
and that it wouldn't, if we didn't stay in that job, it wouldn't be difficult to get another job.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think it was about 10 years ago, maybe 12 years ago now, when I moved from London to Bristol. And I just thought to myself in Bristol, oh, I'll just go temping for a bit. Because I'd always been able to just walk into a temp agency, get a job straight away, boom. It was never an issue. But everything had changed so much. You couldn't just walk into a temp agency anymore. You had to, oh no, you have to go online and fill in the form and and then let it go through the bots and,
Yep.
match you up with jobs. And it was just impossible. I was like,
Yeah.
the world has gone mad. And how are younger people dealing with all this? Because it's like
Mm.
it feels like no one's recognizing you as a person. But I
No.
guess what I'm wondering from the initial question I asked is that if younger people are now stepping out into the world without the kind of, well, not without the possibility, but with much reduced possibility of getting on that sort of train and progressing,
Mm.
and actually having seen from the writer of the book that it isn't always the best way
Doesn't matter.
to live your life. I wonder if people are now tuning into how they can live their life differently
Mm.
and live their life more in line with their values and doing
Yeah.
what actually they want to do rather
Mm.
than what is expected of them. So that's a bit of a
Yeah.
I don't think either of us can answer that question because one, we're not that age, and two, there's no one immediately around us of that age who can tell us.
No,
But if you
but
are
it's a
of that
good
age and you're
question.
listening, then let me know because I
Yeah.
would love to hear. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it is a really good question actually, and yeah, I took it off in a different direction, but that's a really good point because I think you I do know from conversations with my daughters and their contemporaries that uh, the kind of expectation that they'll get on the property ladder, for example,
Mm,
we that was the thing that everybody was going to do. You get married, you have children, you buy a house, you know,
mm,
and they they the idea of them being able to afford to buy a house actually is so far removed from
mm.
reality for a lot of them and their friends
Yeah, yeah,
that they almost go, well, sod it then. Why would we spend years saving money for something that we're never going to be able to get or we're
yeah,
not going to be able to get for a very long time? So
yeah,
we're going to enjoy spending time with our friends now because otherwise, what's the point?
yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
I have to say, my perception of people who are university age right now is that they live much healthier lives than I did when I
They
was at
do. They don't drink as
university.
much as we
I
did.
know. I mean,
Absolutely not.
I can barely remember most of my university time because I was
Yeah.
just drunk and stoned the whole time. And I,
Yeah.
every now and then I'd go to a seminar or a lecture, but I mean, I was just like,
Mm,
yeah, yeah. And, you know, didn't have to pay to go to university. Now we
exactly.
come out
Yeah.
with all that huge debt that's
Mm,
plonking
yeah.
around for years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah. I think
very different.
yeah, they don't drink as much as they used to. I think that's partly a financial thing, but also I
Mm,
think it is a health thing. I think they are, like you say, they're much healthier. They're much better at looking after themselves than we
yeah,
were. And they're much more open to talking about how they're feeling and what's going on for them and what they're struggling with. A
yeah.
lot of them, I know a lot really struggle. There's a lot of young people
Mm,
struggling with very challenging mental health challenges. And that's a whole different story as well. But I think on the whole,
mm,
it's more acceptable for people to try and get
yeah.
help.
Yeah, but also, like you were saying, with the introduction of AI, and for me personally, yes, AI can do a lot of the kind of what I would term as the boring admin-y stuff, but it doesn't do all the innovative stuff
No.
or the creative stuff. It can only do it to a certain
Yeah.
point. But where do people now learn this? How do they skill up to that place where they become the creator if they're not
Mm,
going through all the boring bits? But
mm,
also, if AI starts taking over lots of other areas of our lives, then we need to fill the hole with something else. So
yes.
I'm just really curious as to how that will pan out and whether it will be people stepping into living lives that with more meaning, as in they're
Mm,
not having to, you know, be on that hamster wheel of, expectation from society, or if they'll go out and do things that just make them feel some joy and
yeah.
heartfelt kind of activities, and what that will make our society look like. Because it's either going to go that way or it's going to go down a very dark route, and
Mm.
that's yeah, I don't want that for anyone.
No, absolutely not. I like to think that we will go down the former route, that we
Mm,
will realize what matters and that we will stop chasing after more stuff.
yeah,
I think we are, and young people again, particularly, are, much less obsessed with having things and having stuff. They're
well,
much
they've got
more,
nowhere to put it, have they?
yeah,
Because they can't buy a
they've
house.
got nowhere to put it because they're in shared
Yeah,
rental accommodation. They haven't got the money to spare because the proportion of their income compared to that they have to pay on rent compared to what we were paying on our mortgages or
yeah,
rent um, is huge. And so actually, kind of almost by default, they're spending more time, they spend more time at home with friends than they do
mm,
going out.
mm,
Um, and that's a nice thing to do. Uh, but yeah, interesting. I like to think that if AI ends up giving everybody loads of time back, that we will use that time in a nice, positive, leisurely way rather than filling it with stuff that is
yeah.
meaningless.
Busyness, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Because that is always the
definitely.
temptation, isn't it? Because there is a need in some people to be busy, even
Yes,
if being busy isn't creating anything for them.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
Busy fools.
yeah, yeah. Don't like to call them fools, but
No,
I think
sorry,
it's
but I know what you mean.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, so interesting. So kind of like we've opened up a whole can of worms of
We
questions
have,
that we
haven't
can't
we?
answer.
Yeah.
That's all right. I don't mind opening cans of worms.
No?
Free the worms. Free the worms. That's what I
Yeah,
say.
free the worms. Let them out.
So tell me, Kate, are you reading anything at the moment?
Am I reading anything at the moment? Do you know, I'm so rubbish at remembering what I'm
Oh,
reading
so am
at the
I.
moment.
Yeah.
Honestly, um, mm, and I knew you were going to ask me this question, and I should have brought the book with me. But what I'm going to talk about is a book that I read recently, which isn't what I'm
Yes.
reading at the moment, is by Margaret Atwood called Hagseed. And
Okay.
it is um, it's based on The Tempest,
All
and it's
right.
about a guy he's a kind of aging theatre director, and he's a big fish in a little pond in his local community. And they put on this arts festival every year, and he always puts on a Shakespeare play, and he always does something really mad with it. You know, he sets the play in the like 25th century, or he does something really bonkers and has really mad costumes. And he's planning this um, production of The Tempest, and his number two and number three in the committee that run this arts festival they basically mount a coup to get rid of him, and he's ousted. And it's funny in parts,
Yeah.
very funny in parts. And they mount this coup, and they're all really big, larger than life characters. They're very exaggerated theatre types. And these two guys take over and kick him out. And he kind of disappears into the wilderness for a while and lives as a hermit in a hut, a stone derelict cottage. But he eventually gets a job as an arts person, going into prisons, helping with rehabilitation and stuff. Um, and he blags his way into this prison and puts on Shakespeare plays with these prisoners. And honestly, it's brilliant because he gets them involved, and he gets them understanding and learning what Shakespeare's trying to teach us. And he eventually puts on his mad production of The Tempest with these convicts. Um, and it's a very, very funny, very clever book by Margaret Atwood
Oh,
called Hagseed. So
I'll
yeah,
have to check it out. Yeah, because
yeah,
I do.
yeah,
The Tempest is one of my favourite Shakespeare
mm,
plays. So
mm,
yeah, yeah. Interesting.
yeah.
I'll
So
check it out.
yeah, and uh, yeah. Well, I won't tell you too much about it because the ending's quite, he gets his revenge on the people that ousted
Yeah.
him.
Okay. So no spoilers here.
No spoilers. Because the way
Okay.
he gets his revenge is very funny.
Okay. Well, you've really piqued my curiosity now, so I will definitely check that out. So, Kay, thanks so much for coming on here today. I've really
Thank
enjoyed our
you.
conversation. Lots of food for thought, I think. And anyone listening or watching, if you've got any comments about the discussion we've had, please do pop them in
Yeah.
the chat. And yeah, I'd love to hear from you. So, take care until the next time. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks, Kay.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.